Biden EPA rules will cause blackouts for millions of Americans. Study warns. I've been talking about Biden and his EPA and his rules and regulations, and he's basically going to trying to turn the United States into a third world country. We want to put us back to the Stone Age. Why, look at everything that he's pushing. Can't use gas stoves. They don't want us to use gas powered cars. I mean, they just taking everything, and nobody's voting on this. This is all quote unquote rules and regulations that they just come up with arbitrarily, and it's going to end up hurting Americans in the long run. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. We're going to talk about the study. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. All right, so let's talk about this news. Now, this comes from the Washington Free Beagle from Thomas Catanacci. He reports that President Joe Biden's aggressive climate regulations targeting fossil fuel fired power plants will create widespread electric grid instability and lead to mass blackouts impacting millions of Americans, according to a recent study commissioned by North Dakota's state government. So this is a state-funded research, and the thing is, we could go nuclear, which is a lot cleaner. And they don't want us to go nuclear, even though we have the technology for clean nuclear stuff. They don't want any of these. These green cultists don't want us to use any real technology that would help us. But the research conducted in May by the firm Always On Energy Research concluded that the Environmental Protection Agency's recently finalized regulations are not technologically feasible. Sorry, struggle reading today. Technologically feasible. Why can't I say that word today? And will foreseeably lead to the retirement of coal-powered generation units. Intermittent and weather-dependent green energy sources such as wind, again, we know it's not reliable. Solar, we know that's not reliable. Will replace such retired generators, leading to what the article goes on to say, unreliable conditions, the study found. We all knew this. We know this. I've said this before. It's unreliable. But now we have peer-reviewed proof that this technology that they're pushing, wind and solar, it doesn't work. It does not work. It will never replace fossil fuels. And you should see some of these wind power plants and stuff, and what when they don't tell you when they decommission the wind turbines. We have no way of getting rid of that stuff, so they got like graveyards of old wind turbines, and we can't like do anything with that stuff. That's fine though. They don't care about that. They want to get rid of gas though. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. But the study largely echoes concerns that have been voiced by U.S. grid watchdog, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, regional grid operators, and power utility companies. 4 regional grid operators that oversee the infrastructure supply power of 154 million Americans warned after the EPA regulations were first proposed last year that grid reliability would, quote, dwindle to concerning levels under the regulations. Again, they will make us a third world country where we have rolling blackouts. We don't know when we're going to have power or not. How can we live like that today in 2024? But the Edison Electric Institute, the lead industry group representing U.S. electric companies, in late May joined a lawsuit that challenged the EPA finalized regulations. Quote, Biden's green agenda is shutting down baseload power and is rapidly destabilizing our electrical grid. Electricity costs are up 30% under Biden already. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum told the Washington Free Beacon in a statement. Prices will continue to skyrocket if he's reelected, as real power demand increases dramatically for the first time in decades. for chip manufacturing and new foundational industries like AI. And the idiots don't think about this. The idiot green occultists don't think about how am I gonna charge my tablet? How am I gonna charge my iPad? How am I gonna charge my laptop if we don't have the power to do it? You idiots! These people are so stupid. These people are so stupid. They don't use any logic when it comes to this. But Biden is using this. He's using this green agenda to shut us down. This is what China wants. I believe China. Everything Biden. It seems like everything Biden does is to hurt the American people, and I think he's getting his marching orders from his leader Xi Jinping, who owns Biden. But Burgum, a member of the North Dakota Industrial Commission, which commissioned the study, added that Biden's regulatory regime will reduce power supplies, leading to higher prices and less reliability. In April, the EPA finalized the first part of the multi-pronged effort to curb greenhouse gas emissions produced by the nation's power sector. The regulations require existing coal plants to slash their carbon footprint 90% by 2032, which could force the vast majority of such plants across the country to shutter over the next 2 decades. They further require significant emissions reductions for new natural gas-fired power plants that operate more than 20% of the time. I mean, again, who in their right mind would push this stuff? That want unless they know what this stuff would do to us. But the finalized regulations are poised to have a particularly acute impact on Midwestern states such as North Dakota, where coal-fired power plants produce more than half of all electricity generated, and where the 4 largest power plants are all coal-fired. North Dakota is also the 6th largest coal-producing state in the country. Now, we have enough coal to last us like over 200 years. And we could be, and that's why they're attacking this. That's why globalists is attacking us like this, because it would take away our sovereignty. We would have to rely on other sources, other countries to power our own country. And they don't like that. According to Always On Energy Research, the rules, economics consequences include increasing the cost of compliance for coal plant operators, reducing competitiveness with alternative power sources, expediting the rate of coal retirements, resulting in higher electricity prices, and causing supply chain issues for industries reliant on coal. Quote, the finalized rule will increase costs, which compounded with inflation will negatively impact the affordability of electric and gas services. That's what they want, resulting in a disproportionate effect on low-income citizens, the study stated. Given the high rural populations in North Dakota, pricing low-income citizens out of a reliable energy source creates an economic and social justice issue with devastating impacts on North Dakotans' lives. I love how they use the leftist language, the social justice. I love how they use in their own words. But in addition, under EPA's plan, coal plants considered detachable power, or power that can quickly be turned on in times of high electricity demand, will largely be replaced by new solar and wind power generators, which are highly dependent on proper wind conditions. They never talk about that. Wind power doesn't doesn't work all the time. Solar doesn't work all the time. You have to have a lot of wind. You have to have a lot of sun for these things to work, and that's not always the case. But solar panels, they're about to explain it. Here we go. Solar panels, for example, produce just 25%, and wind turbines produce 34% of their listed capacity. That's so low, according to the Energy Information Administration. Coal and natural gas plants, meanwhile, respectively produce 49% and 54% in their listed capacity. Factoring in the disparity, Always On Energy concluded the grid across the majority of the Midwest would experience nearly 9 million megawatt hours of unserved load, leading to blackouts costing tens of billions of dollars. Goes on to say the EPA power plant rule is exactly the wrong thing to be doing for grid reliability right now. Page um, Paige Lambermont, a research fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, told the Free Beacon, quote, to intentionally to be intentionally closing and essentially banning the facilities that are keeping the grid functioning while at the same time in other ways encouraging the penetration on the grid of things like wind and solar that are making the grid less reliable is going to have incredible poor after effects. Nationwide, natural gas plants generated roughly 43% of total electricity produced in 2023, while coal plants generate another 16%, according to additional Energy Information Administration data. By comparison, wind power generates 10% of total electricity in the United States, and solar produce less than 6%. The EPA is expected to finalize a second batch of regulations cracking down on existing natural gas power plants in the coming months. They're trying to rush all of this in because they fear that Trump is going to take over. They're trying to rush all these regulations in and pushing us off a cliff with these regulations. Democrats and climate advocates have long targeted the power sector as part of their effort to reduce pollution and fight global warming. According to EPA data, electric power generation in the United States is responsible for 25% of total nationwide emissions, only behind the transportation sector, which produces roughly 28% of total emissions. That's why they're trying to get rid of all these things. EPA spokesperson Angela Hackle, I talked about her before, told the Free Beacon that, quote, over decades, EPA regulations like the mercury and air toxic standards and Good Neighbor rule have achieved important reductions in pollution from electricity generation while supporting reliability. This rule will do the same. No, it will not. But she said it'll do the same. She added that the EPA is reviewing the North Dakota study. Yeah, they're reviewing it, but I guarantee they're not going to change anything because they're going to continue to push their green agenda, which we all know, and we see it again from the study, will end up hurting Americans, and it'll turn us into a third world country. But let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.